What is up, everyone? I'm bringing you a slightly different take on understanding the Iron Age this week, because this time around I want to think about some of the challenges, nay, even some of the threats that are facing our wider, more general understanding and appreciation and interpretation of Iron Age life, society, culture, and so on. And that challenge and that threat is our new and seemingly very prevalent friend, AI. And just to illustrate why this is potentially going to be, why this is going to be a problem for archaeology and anybody dealing with the interpretation of the past, is going to be illustrated here. So next week we're going to go back to Casted Hentlis. We're going to light a fire in a roundhouse, and we're going to show you how the roof works. But if you were to be throwing that question at, say, AI in part of a Google search, well, what's that going to tell you? So I've done the graft for you, and I've thrown the question. Nice, awkward language here. Did Celtic roundhouses have holes in them? That's the question that we've pitched, and this is what we get from the AI overview. And the answer, yes. Yes, Celtic roundhouses often had holes in them, specifically in the roof, for smoke from the central fire to escape. Now, why am I being a bit facetious and holding back a slightly apoplectic reaction to this? Well, I'm having this response because we know from experimental archaeology, with a thatched conical roof, you put a fire in that building and then put a hole in the roof, what tends to happen is the house burns down. It's a bad thing. Okay, the experimental archaeology shows this. We have good examples of experimental houses burning down because they had a hole in it with a fire. What you get is essentially an updraft, like a suction current, cycloning up heat and sparks and pretty much everything up from that fire in a conical roof up towards the hole. It's a little hole, so the sparks don't go through the hole. They hit the thatch and the thing burns down. Okay, experimental archaeology has demonstrated this, but AI seems to be unaware of that particularly problematic consequence. And let's just look through the rest of the information that's down there. Here's a more detailed explanation. Smoke ventilation. A central hearth would have been lit in the middle of the roundhouse for cooking and heating. Fine, I don't agree. I don't disagree with that bit. The smoke would have needed an outlet, and a hole in the roof would have served this purpose. Well, I mean, again, AI, you're not wrong. It would serve that purpose. It would also burn the house down. So, pros and cons to this. Let's keep going. Roof construction. The roofs of roundhouses were typically conical and thatched. Yes, I agree. And the smoke hole would have been located at the apex of the roof. No, you disagree because of the house burning down thing. It's a bad thing. So the rest of this goes off in some different directions, talking about post holes and drip trenches, and that's fine. AI's got distracted by other things then. So what is, this is perhaps the more important thing. Okay, so AI is wrong. Okay, let's put that to one side. What is AI basing its argument on? Okay, so where's it drawing these references from? So the first source is it's Quora. Okay, it's Quora. Yes, but here's the interesting thing. Okay, let's just go down to what the chat is telling us. Let's go down to Eric Dodd. An interesting experiment was done by Butzer Ancient Farm. Yes, lots of good chat happening there. Yes, I don't want to sign in. Yes, we don't want to ignore that. The question was, right, why roundhouses didn't have a chimney. Okay, intuition suggested that the interior of the roundhouse would be smoky. However, when they added a chimney, they found the hot air went up the chimney and was replaced by cold air coming in through the crevices. And so they're talking here about it being a negative because it would make the place cold. Okay, fine. The experiment also highlights that it's highly flammable in terms of the risk factor. So what the chat is actually saying is the hole's a bad idea. Okay, so the first source that it's got is from a chat forum within which the chat disagrees with the core premise that the roundhouses would have a hole in them. So, okay, so that's the first source. The second source, Celtic roundhouses and hill forts, primary homework help. Okay, and it's gone. I mean, I've looked at this already because I was curious to know. And here, the Celts would light a fire in the middle of the roundhouse for cooking and heating. It must have been very smoky inside. And the thing I really like about this is if we go see, I mean, okay, we could talk about this picture, and I don't know where Mandy's got this picture from, but that looks like a damaged roof to me. That's not a deliberate opening, that's a damaged roof. And of course, if you're familiar with the way in which roundhouses are constructed, and we can actually look at this from the images here, can you see the little cap that you have here? It's like the weak point of the roof. So that's the bit that always frays first. It's the bit that always gets damaged first. And it will create an opening which you patch up, because if you have a hole, it's gonna burn down. It's not a good thing. But let's just look at the pictures. First roundhouse, is there a hole in there? No. Second picture, hole? No. Third, no. This, fourth, fifth, no. The only picture we've got is this slightly damaged one here. All the others, very clearly, no hole. So, smoke ventilation, the second point, it's backed up by the same two dubious sources. Point 3, Quora, Wikipedia. And then the rest of it, okay, same thing, chat forum. Go down to point 4. Okay, so of everything that AI has given us, the most substantial and accurate piece of archaeological feedback it's given us, evidence of post holes. Evidence of post holes has been found in some excavated roundhouse, suggesting that upright poles were used to support the roof. Okay, that happens from time to time. Its source, Highland Historic Environment Record. Good, legitimate source. It's the fourth or the fifth source that's being used to give any sort of legitimacy to what's being here. So what's the critical problem here? Well, for us in the context of interpreting and presenting archaeology, especially like at a site like Castathenthelis, which has a big experimental emphasis, pretty much the single most common question that we get asked is, shouldn't there be a hole in the roof? Often people will look up and they'll say, why is there a hole in the roof? When they can clearly see there isn't a hole in the roof, but they still expect a hole in the roof. And so where does this expectation come from? Well, in part, it's coming from this, and this is something that's only going to be reinforced. So, I mean, I don't want to be overly critical here. Okay, the primary homework help, I mean, should we be, dumping on that as a resource? Well, I mean, it's wrong, okay? And that's a problem. But do we go with a narrative, or it's stimulating interest in the Iron Age? Okay, well, maybe we can work around that. But the big issue is that inaccuracies in there are picked up by members of the public, and it stays with them, and actually then comes into archaeological sites where the expectation is that these buildings should have holes, to the extent that some people just feel the buildings are wrong because they don't have holes in them, even though the experimental evidence suggests the opposite. And this is something that's only going to be reinforced thanks to AI. Thanks, AI. You broken. You're going to break interpretations of archaeology. So if you throw in these terms, okay, as a lot of people are going to do when it comes to quick and easy and slightly dirty attempts at research, this is the sort of thing that lazy researchers are going to throw at a search engine, and AI is going to pick out incorrect information which isn't factually based, which is already proven to be wrong when it comes to the experimental side of things. And it's going to reinforce itself relentlessly. AI is going to pick out the factually incorrect information. It's going to pump it online. People are going to replicate that information in their own work, precipitating a cycle where the incorrect information is the stuff that's relentlessly being recycled, because when AI goes looking for information about do Celtic roundhouses have holes in the roof, they're going to find information which is sourcing the information that AI has provided in the past, which was wrong. So, understanding the Iron Age. Top tip: don't use AI. Okay, I mean, generally, don't use AI. But when it comes to understanding the Iron Age, when it comes to understanding archaeology, don't use AI. Go to the legitimate text. Go to, where has it gone? Go to these guys. Go to the Scottish Historic Environment Record. Yeah, read that. Much better. That's going to serve you much better. So the good information is out there. Okay, just be cautious. Be cautious. Don't go with this. AI responses may include mistakes. Correct. I'm going to give you negative feedback, AI, and hope that fixes it. Let's check on it in a month, see if it's improved. But next week we'll be back at Castathanthus. We will burn some stuff in the house, and we'll show you how it actually works. And when it comes to answering questions over, how do I learn more about the Iron Age? Well, come to an archaeological site and ask some questions there. Don't go to AI. That'll do. Good night.